Hoshana Rabbah is a strange day. A day when we take the willow, the arova, we separate it from the rest of the four species, and we make that the focus of our avoda. It's a strange day for many reasons. First of all, there's a well-known Yalkut Shimoni Medrash that describes that there are four kinds of Jews. There's the Jew who has both Torah and mitzvahs, who's represented by the esrog. The Jew who is strong in Torah, has taste. The esrog, of course, has both taste and smell. It has a beautiful smell and a beautiful taste. The taste is Torah. The smell is Ma'asim Tovim. The hadas, the myrtle, is a beautiful smell, has no taste. That's a Jew who has good actions, Ma'asim Tovim, but he's lacking in Torah. There's a Jew who's represented by the lulav, the palm. The palm, as we know, is fruit. The date tastes beautiful, has no smell. And then there's the arova, the willow. The willow neither has taste nor smell. And it's that of all of the four species that we give an entire day to, the day of the arova. Shouldn't we rather have an esrog day? We should take the esrog and walk round and round the bima with that. That exemplifies the Jew that we'd all like to be. Why the arova? The name also Hoshana Rabbah, something which is great. Hoshana Rabbah. Rabbah means great. What's great about it? Anything which is great, anything which is gadol. Gadol always connotes expansion, connecting to something beyond. The word gadol is connected to the expression in the Torah, the bracha that Yaakov Avinu gave his sons. He said, Gad Gadud Yugudenu. Gad, the tribe of Gad, is a marching platoon or a troop. Gadol. The opposite of Gadol is Katan. Katan is connected to the Aramaic word Katua. Cut. We have the same word in English. Cut. What is Gadol and what is Katan? Something which is Katan, let's take a baby for example. A baby, a Katan, every single moment in its life is disconnected from the next moment. A baby has no concept, a young child has no concept of being able to string life together into a series of coherent events. It's Katua, cut. You give a baby a lollipop, he's as happy as anything, you take it away from him, the world has come to an end. Every single moment is divorced from the moment before it, the moment after it. He's katua. The essence of gadlus, the essence of something which is great, and if you think of it, an adam gadol, someone who is great, is somebody who takes every single aspect of their lives and they weave it into a single cogent, directed stream of events. Gad, Gadud, Yegudenu, something which carries on, which is connected. When a person is cut off, he's a katan. Nothing makes one moment he's doing this, the next one he's doing that. He's diverted, easily distracted. The idea of somebody who's a gadol, the minimum definition is someone who can take every aspect of his life and focus it into a continuing, ongoing process. We see this idea in Sukkah itself. There's a concept by a wall, Gud Asik. We say one of the walls of the Sukkah. Gud Asik, Gud Achis. It's the same idea basically. If you have the side of a building where you have a plane Plane. A flat surface which is pointing in a vertical direction. The halacha of good achis says that you can take that wall and you can extend it onward. Go on. Continue. In Bava Metzia we have another concept which is similar, using the same word. If two people own a chotzer less than the minimal size of 4 by 4, if it's something which is indivisible and can still have a usage, the other, one cannot force the other one to divide it. So there's a process, a halachic process called good or igud. Meaning good, you go forward, you buy me out, or igud, or I'll buy you out. It's the same idea. You go forward, going forward, connection, hemshech, is the essence of gadlus. That's what it means to be a gadol. And for some reason or other, which we have to understand, Hoshana Rabbah, Rabbah means gadol, Hoshana contains within it this idea of continuation. A similar idea we see in the idea of the Chagim Bechlal. All of the Chagim, all of the festivals, and specifically Sukkot, which is called Zman Simcha Seinu. What is the Simcha of Sukkot? What is Simcha Bechlal? The Samachta Bechagecha. Vilna Gaon said that the mitzvah of Simcha is the most difficult mitzvah that there is for mitzvah to perform, because the mitzvah requires that a person should have this feeling of Simcha the entire holiday. How does a person do that? What are you supposed to feel? They say about Napoleon that Napoleon slept very little, because, and they asked him why, he said, listen, when I'm asleep, I'm no different to any other foot soldier. When I'm awake, I'm the king of the world. But the Jewish idea of simcha, of happiness, obviously is very different to the megalomania of somebody like a Napoleon. So what is the simcha that we're supposed to be feeling? There's a measurement in the Gemara in Sukkah, a measurement called a tefach sameach, or a tefach tzochek. They mean basically the same thing. A tefach sameach is a happy tefach. Tefach tzochek, it's different versions of the word, means a laughing tefach. What is this? It's a tefach, a hand's breadth, but a little bit more. It's a little bit more than a regular tefach. Why did Chazal, who used words in very precise ways, call something which is basically a maxi tefach, we would probably call it nowadays, we call it a oversized tefach? Why did Chazal give the terminology, why did they term something which is slightly larger than normal, something which is happy? And I think the answer is that things that really make us happy in life, the simcha is what we were talking about before, is the idea of gadlus, of being slightly more, not losing ourselves. The tefach is still a tefach. It hasn't lost itself, but it's now more, it's expanded. Events in our lives which make us feel that we've expanded bring simcha. When a person gets married, he's more than he was. That brings simcha. When he has children, that brings even more simcha, because he perceives himself to have expanded. A true simcha means that you're connected to, you feel yourself part, that everything is part of you, and you're part of everything. And Avraham Avinu looked at this world not just as his family, he saw himself, the whole world as, so to speak, an extension of who he was. He was connected. True simcha is the idea that I don't see myself ending at the end of my fingertips. And this is very different from the non-Jewish idea of simcha. In the non-Jewish world, the idea of simcha is something where I lose myself. It's not by coincidence that drug abuse, alcohol abuse is something which increases on a yearly basis. Because the whole concept of simcha, if we can call it lahavdil, of happiness, to a secular mind is somehow to lose myself. And the Jew says no. True simcha is to connect myself with that which is beyond myself. Hoshana Rabbah is the day of, it's a day which is Rabbah, it's Gadol. It's something which moves us beyond who we are. How does it happen? There's a famous medrash that describes how Moshe Rabbeinu was shown by HaKadosh Baruch Hu all of his otzors, his storehouses of reward, which were laid up for the tzaddikim. A mystical concept that Moshe Rabbeinu understood, was shown in some way. All the reward that the tzaddikim would have in the world to come. And then Moshe saw a great otzar, a huge storehouse, and asked who would receive it. And Hashem asked that it was a free gift for those who have nothing. When a person feels that he has nothing except his yearning, his desire, that's when he plugs in to the greatest storehouse that can be. A Jew who has Torah, a Jew who has mitzvahs, a Jew who feels that he comes to Hashem with something will get a reward. But a Jew who feels he has absolutely nothing and yearns for that connection, he has the greatest storehouse. That's the willow. That's the arava. The arava who has absolutely nothing and has nothing but his yearning. The arava, the willow, is a tree which grows and has to grow very close to water. It thirsts. It's thirsty. It desires. That's the secret of its power. That yearning, that desire, that understanding. I have nothing. And even if I have Torah, and even if I have mitzvahs, but I feel like a willow, I feel like an arava. I feel I have nothing. I have nothing but that which connects to me to beyond myself. Ve'etzem, I have nothing. That's the feeling that a person, if he taps into on Hoshana Rabbah, will find that he has everything. The lul of the esrog, the arava, the hadas, represents the aspects of prayer. They're all aspects of prayer. The willow, the arava we've been talking about, represents the lips. The lips, of course, Hashem sefasai tiftoch. The esrog represents the heart. That's the avodah shebalev. The shedra, the spine, is the lulav. And davening, part of the davening, essential part of the davening is bowing, shokling on another level, the movement of the spine of the body. And the eyes that cast down in prayer. The eyes have to be looking down, not up. That's the hadas. They all signify tefillah. It's the day of the great tefillah. Maybe the greatest day of tefillah in the world, in the year. Maybe even greater than Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And certainly, as we know, there's a hemshech, there's a continuation from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which ends tomorrow morning. The Piskatava, as it's called, the Petek that's sent out, which will decide once and for all, according to some opinions, what will happen to us throughout the rest of the next year. It's the day where if we can plug into that feeling of Hoshana, save us Hashem. I have nothing. I'm like that arava. All I have is my yearning. And the lower a person feels he is, the more he yearns. The less a person feels he is, the more he has this feeling. There's a medrash that says about Lavan. Vayoretz Lavan el ha'ish hachutza el ha'ayin. And Lavan ran to meet Eliezer. Now I thought he was ma'ayin lay, it says. Omer al gemalim al ha'ayin ma'ayin gamrei. V'omar ba baruch Hashem. Lavan said to Eliezer, come blessed of Hashem. Shayasavo, he thought that this was Avraham Avinu coming to visit him. Because Eliezer had the cluster ponov, he was the spitting image, so to speak, of Avraham Avinu. Amar Rabbi Yossi b'Rav Doisa, Canaan hu Eliezer. Eliezer was a Canaani. He was cursed. V'al yedei she shores oisa tzadik be'emuna. By serving Avraham Avinu with faithfulness, yotze miklal oror l'klal baruch. V'yoma bo baruch Hashem. He achieved this bo baruch Hashem, this level of escaping from this lowly position, this being a Canaani, being cursed, by Lavan calling him bo baruch Hashem. How does this work? Shem Shmuel said that at that moment, when Lavan looked at Eliezer, and he thought he was Avraham Avinu, he was so struck by his own lowliness that he had the power to change Lavan from someone who was from Eliezer, from someone who was an Oro to a Baruch. If a person's a pygmy all of his life, I remember many years ago when Rav Aaron Leib Steinman, Shlita, came to visit the yeshiva. There was just being within his Daled Amos, you saw what was godless. You recognized how lowly you really were. When a person understands how low he really is, I'm saying that he understands what's above him, what the potential is, how far it goes. When a pygmy sees a normal human being and Allah has become a giant, he realizes, wow, that's an enormous power. That's the power, the Medrash is saying, that took Eliezer from being an Oro to being a Baruch, that recognition of Lavan. Bo Baruch Hashem, at that moment, Eliezer became a Baruch through the power of Lavan's recognition. That's the awesome power of a Hoshana Rabbah, a day on which we feel we have nothing except this recognition, this yearning. The Ramban comments about Avraham Avinu. It says that Kadosh Baruch Hu chose Avraham Avinu, and in the Torah you don't find any preamble as to why it was that Hashem chose Avraham Avinu. The Midrashim expound on all of his virtues, on his ability to intuit a creator. He looked into the Bria, he saw a Bira Dolekes. The concept of a Bira Dolekes is an interesting idea, a burning building. What he saw, Avraham Avinu looked into the world and he saw, the Medrash says, a building on fire, a light. What's the idea of a building on fire, a light? Avraham Avinu, when something is burnt, it's reduced to its totally constituent parts. It becomes atoms. It becomes all the same. Maybe one understanding of that medrash is that Avraham Avinu was looking at this Bira Dolekes, something which was totally burnt, which was removed, which was reduced to its absolute constituent atomic particles. And he saw the achdus of Hashem in the whole Bria, that everything in the world was really the same. When something is burnt, when it's dolekes, it ceases to have any tzura, any shape. It becomes reduced to its atoms. Many reasons why Avraham Avinu was chosen by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the Torah, it says none of them. It just says lech lecha. Why? Why is it that the Torah records nothing of the virtues of Avraham Avinu? The Ramban says it's because the reason that the Torah does not mention any of this is to tell us that at the basic level, the reason why Avraham Avinu was chosen by Hashem was because Hashem loved him. Love, real love, has no cause. Any love which is tluya b'dava, which depends on something, when that thing goes, the love goes. A true love, the cause and the effect are one. It's the same thing. It's the beginning, it's the end. The reason why you love is because you love. Why do you love? Because you love. Because you love, because you love, because you love. Ad infinitum. The root reason why Avraham Avinu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose him, was Hashem loved him. And that's why the Torah does not describe any of his virtues, to tell us that feeling, Kaviyochel, that was evoked in HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Avraham Avinu is something which is nothing to do, and of course that's our bequest from Avraham Avinu. Why Hashem loves us is because he loves us. Not because of the mitzvahs, not because of the ma'asim tovim, because at the end of the day that's something that's for us. Hashem gets nothing out of it. The Arava awakes in Hashem, so to speak, that feeling of love which was identical to the feeling that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had for Avraham Avinu. A feeling which can never change. A feeling which will go throughout all of the generations to the end of time. That's the Arava. That's the Jew, that's the feeling in the heart when a person says to Hashem, Hashem, I have nothing. Hoshana. Save me for no reason. And that's the person who plugs into that otzar, that storehouse of enormous size. This feeling of really having nothing when we approach Hashem, this feeling which is the power of Hoshana Rabbah, of equating ourselves with the willow that has neither tam, taste, nor smell, whose whole power is this power to yearn for what he doesn't have, that plugs into that feeling that Hashem, that innate, historical feeling that Hashem has for the Jewish people. It's very much dependent on, to the extent that we manage to nullify our sense of I, that we come in front of Hashem with tremendous humility. A person's identity, when we say, Ona Hashem Hoshana, Hillel, at the end of the Gemara in Sukkah, says an interesting statement. Imani kan, hakol kan. If I'm here, everything is here. And if I'm not here, nothing is here. On the surface, it's a strange remark, until a person understands that Ani, Anna, is one of Hashem's names. How do we understand that? Everything a person knows is based on a series of connection of intellectual ideas. Everything in this world, this microphone, these lights, we can talk about, we can describe, we can evaluate. It's round, it's black. This is the world of shared ideas. There's another perception that a person has, a perception which goes beyond anything intellectual. It's something that can't be argued about, it can't be proved, and it can't be disputed. And that's the perception of my own existence. My own existence, the fact that I exist, I do not arrive at through an intellectual process of, am I here? And then I answer the question, yes, I am here. It's something which is deeper than all knowledge. It's something which I know. Nobody can convince me that I'm not here. And I'm not playing word games here. It reminds me of the story of a criminal who was being sentenced by a judge for murdering somebody. The judge, this murderer, stood up and he said, everything in this room, everybody in this court are figments of my imagination. So the judge says, fine, I'm sentencing you to the imaginary electric chair. I'm not playing, I'm saying that if a person really thinks about it, the fact that I exist, the sense of my own ani, is the deepest knowledge that I have. And it's not something that I arrive through an intellectual process. Everything else in the world is something we can talk about. We can discuss, we can argue. It's this way, it's that way. The sense of my own existence, the sense of my own I, is something which is beyond that, deeper than that. It's not an intellectual thing at all. And of course, this sense of our own I is something that can't be transferred to anybody else. My sense of my existence is something that I can't communicate to you. Everybody has this for themselves, with regard to themselves, but it's not something that can be translated. The sense of I, the sense of my existence, is the deepest knowledge that a person has, and it's inviolable. It can't be attacked. When we say, Ona Hashem, Hoshana, when Hillel says that Ani, Im Ani kan, Hakol kan, he was taking his own sense of his own identity, that deepest knowledge of his own existence, and giving that up to Hashem. Im Ani kan, Hashem is the Ani, is the Anochi of the entire existence. The essence of Emunah is to take my own sense of my own identity, that most sure, secure knowledge, and to give that up to Hashem. And to say, you know something, Hashem? And that's really what we do when we say Shema Yisrael. That's really what Shema Yisrael is. Because, it's very easy to go through one's life and say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Ani Echad. I know I exist. I'm certain of my own existence. I know I'm here. You? I don't know. Maybe you're some amazing IMAX presentation that I walked through my life. This is really what Paro did. Paro says in the Novi, Paro said, Li hayoor va'ani asisini. The river is mine and I made myself. Paro was the original self-made man. Paro understood, he perceived that the fact of the knowledge, the certainty of his own existence made his existence mukhrach. It made it that it had to be. I'm here. If I'm here, I have to be here. And it's the only thing I'm really certain of. That's what it means to make yourself into a god. Paro wasn't a stupid person. He perceived the necessity of his own existence, the fact of his own existence, as the necessity for his own existence. I have to be. I am mukhrach. A Jew takes that deepest, most securely held knowledge of his own existence and he says, no, I'm not Echad. The Ani of the world, the Ona Hashem Hoshiana, he is Echad. And what am I? I'm totally nisbatel to Hashem. All I have is my yearning. All I have is my tefillah. That's David HaMelech. I need tefillah, said David HaMelech. David HaMelech really had no life at all. The 70 years that he existed in this world were given to him by Adam Arishan. That perception, of course, the Yushpiza of Hoshana Rabbah is David HaMelech. That sense of the nisbatl, of the fact that I don't really have anything at all, that's Hoshana Rabbah. We say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. At that moment, according to the deepest Svarim, we're allowed for a split second to totally say that Ein Od Milvado, nothing exists at all. Nothing exists at all except Hashem. Hashem is Echad, so then where am I? And the answer is that I am that yearning. I need tefillah. When a person is misbattle himself, he puts himself into the situation where nothing exists. He takes his own anochius, his certainty of his own existence, and he surrenders that to Hashem, That's what we call Mesiras Nefesh. That's the Ikka of Emunah. That's really what Emunah really is. And that's the Arava. That's the willow, who has nothing except the yearning to connect. The Ikka of Hoshana Rabbah is Tefillah. Maybe the greatest day of Tefillah in the year. The Ikka of Hoshana Rabbah is to connect to that Gadlus, that Gadol, that takes us beyond ourselves. Hashem is Gadol. The Gadlus that is the Jewish people is to the extent that we plug into that. That Otza HaGadol, of great storehouse, which is the essence of Sukkot, the summation of Sukkot. The day when Sukkot reaches its conclusion, that focus on Simcha, of reaching out beyond the Tefach Sameach, that's all Nichlal, gathered together in that lowly Arava. And it's all down to his batlus, it's all down to removing ourselves from center stage, of realizing and feeling, I need tefillah. I need tefillah. I have nothing else. I exist to the extent that I can daven. The four aspects, the four species represent tefillah. Yearning of the Arava for the water, for mayim, the yearning to be connected, the yearning for life. Finish with a story I heard from Rav Mendel Weinbach, Zeichet Tzad Livrocha. I remember standing here and saying this story. Yerushalmi children are very sharp, they're very sharp. And there was a fellow in the early days of the state who was an ardent Zionist, and very anti-religious. Of course, to be anti-religious in those days meant you had to have a father or a grandfather who at least knew what Judaism was. That isn't true anymore. And he came on a visit to Mea Shearim, and he was walking around with his entourage, and he's got the standard Zionist outfit on with the jacket and the white collar over his jacket, and of course without anything covering his head. And this little cheder yingel, this little child of 7 years old, runs up to him, and he says, quite naturally, seeing that his head is uncovered, he says in Yiddish, "Wo ist dein Kapelich? Where's your kippah?" And so this guy turns to him and he says, in Yiddish of course, "The whole sky is my kippah." This little boy looks at him and he says, "Such a big kippah for such a small head." Person approaches Hoshana Rabbah with a small head, with a feeling, I have absolutely nothing. And you know, sometimes in Or Sameach, I'm sure it's a feeling that all of us have experienced. We see great Torah scholars, we see people who are tzaddikim, and we think to ourselves, how can I ever do that? How can I ever sit down and learn all of this wisdom? How can I ever raise myself to the level of the tzidkus, of the righteousness, of the beinadon lechavero, of the level of tefillah, of the hispatlus? How can I do that? That's the key. That's the key. That yearning, that desire, is the key to HaKadosh Baruch Hu opening that oitza, that enormous storehouse. When a person approaches Hashem, and he approaches Hoshana Rabbah with a feeling, I have nothing, I'm very small, but I have this yearning, a yearning to be close to Hashem, a yearning to be much more, and the more I see, the more I realize how little I have. That's the Arava. That's the feeling that in Kadosh Baruch Hu, in Yetz Hashem, if we plant that into our hearts, and we approach Hashem with that feeling tomorrow morning in our tefillahs, B'ezrat Hashem, He will seal us and all of Klal Yisrael in the book of life for a year of blessing, hatzlacha, and happiness.